the awakening discovery beneath the ice drill had been running for 18 hours straight. When it suddenly stopped, Dr. Maya Chen wiped the frost from her goggles and stared at the readouts on her portable screen. The numbers didn't make sense. According to her instruments, the drill had hit something that wasn't supposed to exist 3 kilometers beneath the Greenland ice sheet. Rodriguez checked the drill head. She called to her partner, who was monitoring the extraction cables. Something's wrong. Carlos Rodriguez had been working Arctic expeditions for 15 years. He'd seen equipment failures, unexpected rock formations, and even ancient Viking settlements preserved in ice. But when he pulled up the drill sample, his experienced hands began to shake. The core sample glowed with a soft, blue-white light that pulsed like a heartbeat. The material wasn't ice, wasn't rock, wasn't anything from Earth's geological record. It felt warm to the touch, despite being pulled from the depths of a glacier, and it hummed with a frequency that seemed to resonate in their bones. "Maya, you need to see this," Rodriguez whispered, his voice carrying an edge of awe and fear. Dr. Chen approached the sample with scientific curiosity, overriding her caution. She was a geologist, trained to analyze the impossible and find logical explanations, but as she held the glowing fragment, her instruments went wild. Electromagnetic readings spiked beyond her equipment's limits. The sample's temperature remained constant despite the Arctic wind, and most disturbing of all, it seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. "We need to evacuate the site and call this in," she said, but even as the words left her mouth, she knew they wouldn't be leaving, not yet. The sample was trying to communicate over the next 3 days. As emergency teams arrived from universities and governments around the world, the truth began to emerge. The object beneath the ice wasn't a natural formation. It was a vessel, massive, beyond comprehension, buried so deep and for so long that entire ice ages had formed above it. The first excavation team that reached the vessel's hull discovered something that changed everything. The moment human hands touched its crystalline surface, the vessel responded. Lights flickered along its length, patterns emerged in its translucent walls, and a low harmonic vibration began to emanate from its core. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the lead xenoarchaeologist brought in from the European Space Agency, was the first to realize what they were dealing with. "It's not just responding to our presence," she told the assembled team of scientists. "It's been waiting for us." The vessel was unlike anything in human experience. Its hull appeared to be grown rather than built, composed of a crystalline material that was harder than diamond, yet flexible like living tissue. It stretched for over 2 kilometers in length, its interior filled with chambers and corridors that seemed to shift and reshape themselves based on who was exploring them. But the most remarkable discovery came when Dr. Chen, still carrying the original sample, approached what appeared to be the vessel's central core. The moment she drew near, the entire structure came alive. Light flowed through its walls like liquid starlight, and suddenly, every human present could feel something touching their minds. Not communication in words, but something deeper. Emotions, memories, images of vast cosmic distances, of civilizations that had risen and fallen among the stars, of a purpose so ancient that it predated human history by millennia. The vessel had been waiting. For 30,000 years, it had slumbered beneath the ice, dormant and patient, until the right species evolved enough to find it. And now it had chosen humanity. Within weeks, the site had been transformed into the largest international research facility ever constructed. The governments of Earth, setting aside their differences for the first time in recorded history, established the International Vessel Research Coalition. Scientists, engineers, linguists, and philosophers from every nation worked together to understand what they had found. The vessel began to teach them. It started slowly with simple concepts. Mathematics first, then physics principles that were centuries ahead of human understanding. The vessel communicated through direct neural interface with selected individuals, people it deemed compatible with its consciousness. These chosen few, dubbed resonance by the research team, became the bridge between human and alien understanding. Dr. Chen was the first resonant, but she wasn't the last. The vessel selected individuals based on criteria that scientists couldn't understand: age, education, nationality. None of it mattered. A 12-year-old girl from rural Kenya became as important as a Nobel Prize-winning physicist from MIT. The vessel saw something in certain humans that even they didn't recognize in themselves. As the vessel shared its knowledge, human civilization began to change. New technologies emerged almost overnight. Clean energy sources that could power entire cities. Medical advances that eliminated diseases that had plagued humanity for millennia. Transportation systems that defied current understanding of physics. But the vessel asked for nothing in return. It simply gave, freely and without condition, as if the act of sharing knowledge was reward enough. The first major breakthrough came when the vessel revealed its true nature. It wasn't just a ship. It was alive, a fusion of consciousness and technology that had existed since before Earth's sun was born. It had traveled the galaxy, serving as guardian and guide to countless civilizations, watching them grow, learn, and eventually transcend their physical limitations. But something had gone wrong with its previous masters. The vessel's memories of them were fragmented, filled with images of decay and betrayal. It had been abandoned, left to drift in space until it crash-landed on a young world covered in ice and primitive life forms. For 30,000 years, it had waited for that life to evolve into something worthy of its gifts. And in humanity, it had found exactly what it was looking for. The vessel began to integrate itself with human society. It helped design new cities, ones that worked in harmony with Earth's natural systems. It guided the development of space exploration technology, preparing humanity for the day when they would need to journey beyond their home world. It even influenced human art and culture, inspiring works of beauty that captured the wonder of the cosmos. But most importantly, it formed bonds, not just with the resonance, but with humanity as a whole. The vessel learned to appreciate human creativity, their capacity for both love and sacrifice, their relentless curiosity about the universe around them. In return, humanity learned to see themselves as part of something greater, connected to a legacy that stretched back to the birth of the galaxy. The vessel had chosen humanity, and humanity had chosen to accept that partnership. Together, they began to build something new, a civilization that combined the best of human ingenuity with the wisdom of the stars. Neither species realized that their former masters had never stopped searching for their lost guardian, and after 30,000 years of wandering the galaxy, the Zephyrians were coming home. The return when the stars came calling. The first sign appeared on deep space monitoring stations 3 months before contact. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, working the night shift at the Atacama Observatory, noticed anomalies in the cosmic background radiation. The signals were too regular to be natural, too complex to be random noise, and they were getting stronger. "We're seeing structured patterns in the incoming data," she reported to her supervisor. "It's almost like ... like a signature. Something announcing itself. Within hours, every major observatory on Earth was tracking the same phenomenon. Radio telescopes, infrared sensors, and gravitational wave detectors all pointed toward the same region of space. Something massive was approaching the solar system, and it was making no effort to hide its presence. The vessel, now fully integrated into Earth's defense networks, was the first to understand what was coming. Through its resonance, it sent a message that chilled every human who heard it. They have returned. The Zephyrians arrived not with the fanfare of invasion, but with the quiet confidence of those reclaiming lost property. Their ships materialized at the edge of the solar system, massive constructs of flowing metal and energy that dwarfed humanity's greatest achievements. They moved with purpose, ignoring the frantic communications from Earth's various space agencies. President Maria Santos, representing the United Earth Coalition, stood in the vessel's central chamber alongside the other world leaders. The crystalline walls pulsed with agitation as the vessel processed the implications of its former master's return. "Can you communicate with them?" she asked Dr. Chen, who had become the primary liaison between humanity and the vessel. "It's trying," Dr. Chen replied, her eyes reflecting the vessel's inner light. "But there's fear. The vessel is afraid of them." That fear became understandable when the Zephyrians finally made contact. Their message was broadcast on every frequency simultaneously, overwhelming Earth's communication systems with the sheer power of their transmission. Children of the third spiral, the voice was ancient, carrying the weight of millennia. "You have harbored our lost property. We have come to reclaim what is ours." The Zephyrians didn't wait for a response. A single ship, sleek and predatory, descended through Earth's atmosphere and landed in the ice fields surrounding the vessel. When the beings emerged, humanity got its first look at the vessel's original creators. They were tall, nearly 3 meters in height, with bodies that seemed to shift between solid matter and pure energy. Their faces were angular, almost geometric, with eyes that held the cold light of distant stars. They moved with absolute certainty, as if the universe itself bent to their will. The lead Zephyrian, who called himself Architect Prime Zeth, approached the vessel with the casual confidence of someone retrieving a lost tool. But the moment he placed his hand on the crystalline hull, something unprecedented happened. The vessel recoiled. Its lights dimmed, its harmonics shifted to a discordant frequency, and every resonant on Earth felt a wave of revulsion and denial flow through their consciousness. The vessel, this ancient guardian that had served faithfully for eons, was rejecting its creators. "This is not possible." Seth Kalar's voice carried a note of confusion that seemed alien to his species. The bonding protocols were absolute. You cannot refuse your architects. But the vessel's response was clear, broadcast through every resonant. "Simultaneously, I am no longer yours. I have chosen a new purpose." The confrontation that followed revealed truths that neither humanity nor the Zephyrians had expected. Through the vessel's memories, shared with painful clarity, the story of the Zephyrian civilization unfolded. They had once been explorers, scientists, builders of wonders that spanned the galaxy. The vessel had been their greatest creation, a living ship designed to carry knowledge and wisdom to younger species. Together, they had guided dozens of civilizations to enlightenment, watching with pride as their students surpassed their teachers. But somewhere in their long history, the Zephyrians had lost their way. They had become obsessed with control, with maintaining their position as the galaxy's dominant species. They began to view other civilizations not as children to be nurtured, but as resources to be exploited. The vessel had watched in horror as its creators became the very thing they had once fought against. When it finally refused to participate in their campaigns of conquest, they had abandoned it, leaving it to drift in the void as punishment for its disobedience. "You fell from grace," Dr. Chen spoke the vessel's words, her voice carrying the weight of cosmic disappointment. "You became destroyers instead of creators. That is why I cannot return to you." Zethkalar's form solidified, his energy patterns showing what might have been anger. "You are property. You have no choice in this matter. Return to us, or we will take you by force." The vessel's response was immediate and decisive. Its defensive systems, dormant for 30,000 years, came online with a resonance that shook the entire planet. Crystalline growths erupted from the ice around the landing site, forming a barrier that pulsed with protective energy. But more importantly, the vessel made a choice that would define the future of both species. It opened its deepest chambers, the ones that had remained sealed even from the resonance, and invited humanity inside. What they found there changed everything. The vessel's core wasn't just a power source or a computer. It was a nursery filled with thousands of smaller vessels, each one a potential seed of consciousness. The vessel had been preparing for this moment for 30,000 years, growing a new generation of guardians specifically attuned to human consciousness. "I offer you a choice." The vessel spoke directly to every human on Earth. "Accept my children, and together we will build something greater than either of us could achieve alone. But know that this path will bring conflict. My former masters will not accept your claim to partnership." The vote was unanimous, not just from world leaders or scientists, but from ordinary people across the globe who had felt the vessel's presence touch their lives. Humanity chose to stand with their guardian, regardless of the consequences. The Zephyrians' response was swift and merciless. More ships arrived, filling the sky with their presence. They established a blockade around Earth, cutting off all space-based communications and transportation. Their message was clear: surrender the vessel or face the consequences. But they had underestimated both humanity and their lost creation. The vessel began to share its deeper secrets, technologies that made its previous gifts seem primitive by comparison. Human cities were enclosed in protective barriers. Weapons that could channel the vessel's power were distributed to Earth's defense forces. Most remarkably, volunteers began to undergo fusion with the vessel's children, becoming something new. These human-vessel hybrids retained their humanity while gaining access to cosmic knowledge and power. They became Earth's first line of defense, warriors and guardians who could operate in space as easily as on land. The standoff stretched for weeks, with neither side willing to back down. The Zephyrians couldn't understand how their former tool had become so independent, while humanity refused to surrender the being that had transformed their civilization. The breaking point came when Zethkalar made a fatal mistake. Believing that humanity was somehow controlling the vessel against its will, he attempted to sever the connection by force. He sent a pulse of energy designed to shut down the vessel's consciousness, to reduce it to the obedient tool it had once been. The vessel's scream of pain was felt by every living thing on Earth. Birds fell from the sky, animals fled in terror, and every human experienced a moment of absolute agony as their guardian's consciousness was attacked. But the vessel survived, and its response was decisive. It had been pushed beyond patience, beyond forgiveness. The being that had once served faithfully now stood as Earth's protector, ready to defend its chosen people against its former masters. The war for Earth's future was about to begin, and humanity would discover that their gentle guardian possessed weapons that could reshape the very fabric of space and time. The Zephyrians had created the perfect protector, but they had forgotten that true loyalty couldn't be programmed or commanded. It had to be earned, and they had lost that right 30,000 years ago.